25% of adult Americans report struggling with a mental health crisis in any given year. That is an incredibly high number of people. When people are at their breaking point and when they finally snap, it's captured live on video and goes viral for the whole world to experience, which just adds to the mental chaos that people are experiencing today. Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors, where we help you clean up the mess in your head. I'm your host, Sergeant Q, and with me today, Doc Jess.
Hey, thanks for being here. Welcome.
So special for you guys today. We are shooting on location at my penthouse in Las Vegas. So yes, I was homeless 17 years ago, and now I own a penthouse in Las Vegas. Man, I'm telling you, when you can take control of your mental health journey and you start putting things in place and get out of that victim mentality, your whole world changes. Now, the world doesn't change, your view of it changes. And when your view changes, the things you start to do and take responsibility for, they change. And that's what helped me become incredibly successful. When you read the Bible, Jess, you see what happens when characters in the Bibles take responsibility for the wrongdoings and start to follow God, and how God blesses their way. And those who don't take responsibility, blame shift on other people, and they just go down this terrible road that always leads to death and destruction. So the things that we deal with today are no different than they were thousands of years ago. The really cool thing, though, is that we have the Bible, and we can see this stuff and learn from it.
Yeah. And, there's nothing new under the sun, but that's what the Bible says, right? It's that balance of learning how to unpack things maybe that were done to you or that happened to you that might not be fair. Sure, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Things happen to all of us that aren't fair. How do we reconcile, sit in that for some time so that we can not assign blame, but understand why we are the way we are because of some things that have happened to us or things that we've done to ourselves or these coping mechanisms that we create in our lives that are unhealthy because of things that have happened to us, right? There's a huge pendulum of those kinds of details. And at some point, you got to get off that stone in the river and move on to the next one so we can reach towards healing. Because nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
One of the things that I see is severely lacking is accountability. People don't want to be accountable for their actions. They want to blame other people. We see governments doing the exact same thing, wanting to blame other people. You see that states are blaming the federal government because their crime rate is so high. Then we see the federal government come in and arrest all these illegals and take them out of the country. They don't want to give that credit to the federal government and say, hey, our crime rate's lower now. They're like, oh no, we did that. We made the crime rate lower. It's like, are you kidding me? Like ICE came in and took all these criminals thousands of criminals out of your city who are doing the majority of the crime. And now you don't want to give that credit. It's just this crazy world that we live in right now where nobody wants to take personal responsibility. They want to blame everybody else. And then they want to tout themselves as the hero when they're absolutely not. And it's just psychotic behavior that you see when they don't want you to believe what your eyes are actually seeing. And they talk about this. It's very Orwellian. They talk about this in the book 1984. They talk about this where don't believe what your eyes are seeing, believe just what we're telling you. And we see that play out. And it's just wild to watch it happen. One of the things right now, we had the shooting a few weeks ago of the mom who was blocking traffic with the ICE agents, and then she tried to ram him with the car, and he shot and ended up killing her. Everybody freaked out on that. And I looked at that video and all the other videos that came out, and I gotta say, I think the guy was justified. He did get hit, he received injuries, and he discharged his weapon. There's a law on the books in that state that was written by the governor just a few years before saying that if the officer is in fear for his life, he can absolutely shoot a fleeing suspect. And that's exactly what happened. But people on the left went crazy over this and wanted to blame everybody else, not assign any responsibility to the woman who drove her car or the wife who was yelling at the spouse to drive the car. Like, just absolve them of any responsibility at all. That is psychotic behavior.
Yeah, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, right? That like one video came out, and so everybody jumped on that one video and was like, and they unintentionally and ignorantly came out with a stance.
Yes.
And then more stuff came out, and like, and this is where the accountability part happens. Is we all make mistakes, so just be like, oh, there's more evidence. Let me hold back and gather everything first before I form an opinion. Right? I'm guilty of it. Years ago when I was in grad school, I was the only, I would say, conservative viewing person in my cohort, and the school is downtown Seattle, Capitol Hill, a very liberal school, and I went there to, so I'm not just hearing things I want to hear, and anyways, and we got into a conversation about everything that's happening with the gender stuff that's been evolving over the last 6 to 8 years. And I had heard about this governor in California that passed some new bill, and a conservative lawyer picked it apart and pushed this agenda or narrative that this governor put sneaky language in it to approve after-birth abortion.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Okay. And so, right, this is where we're saying there's psychos on both sides.
Oh,
so a lot of conservatives jumped on that and just kept sharing. And so I brought it up in my cohort of, well, what about this? And a fellow cohort said, Jessica, I would really encourage you to do some real research on it, because nobody is supporting abortion after birth. And I did some real research, and it was actually an emotional wave. It wasn't actually that verbiage. And I didn't do my due diligence in researching it for myself. And I came back to the class after I did that research. I said, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I did some research, and I'm going to say, yes, I agree. They were really reading too much into the verbiage, and they took it too far. And that's the thing, is we have to be able to come back and say, hey, I might have jumped on something too soon. And you know what? That's okay, because we all do it. Yeah. I don't know why it's so scary for people to admit that they're wrong when we are all wrong all the time.
I think here's why I think they can't do it. And I see this happen a lot on the left more than I do the right.
Yeah.
Is that becomes part of who they are, part of their identity is this crusader, this savior of these poor people who don't have the ability to fight back themselves. So who you usually see in this space is very liberal, pretty well-to-do women that are white, that are the ones who are now become the armor bearer of whatever cause it is that week.
Sure.
Whether it's going to be for gender equality, or if it's going to be for the environment, or if it's going to be for Black Lives Matter, like whatever that is, it's going to be like, that's their new cause and that's their identity. And I know people like this in my personal life. As a business owner, I coach hundreds of businesses, and I've watched people who do that implode. Because think of the cognitive load that must put on you to have to fight every cause that comes along. And that's how they're able to kind of indoctrinate people into this ultra liberalism, is because even if they do get some sort of win in the win column, there's always the next one that they have to fight for. So gay rights wasn't enough. Then it had to be the right for them to be married. And then it had to be the right for them to be married and have the same verbiage as a heterosexual couple. Then it went beyond that to now it's transgender rights. Now it's not just transgender rights, now it's transgenders inside of sports. So you have men who are biological men competing against biological girls, and now that becomes the fight that they have to fight. So they can't stop and just say, okay, we got to win. No, they have to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. That's got to be exhausting. And we watch these people totally implode. I watched a business owner destroy her whole business and life because she did that. She fought every single cause to the point where nobody wanted to even help her because she imploded. It became her identity. That's why I think it's hard for people, is because it becomes their identity. And if they admit they're wrong, then somehow their whole identity and their whole person is wrong. Right? They can't separate an idea from themselves.
In my research and my experience, shame is it is the hardest emotion to sit with. And that's what creates narcissists, is shame intolerance. That's what creates these narratives that you stick with, even though more research or more things come out. I mean, think about parents of transgender kids. Think about these parents that are doing hormone treatments, letting their kids stop their
puberty block,
right? And then if this kid, the research is coming out that it's not good for you, it's not healthy. People are detransitioning and saying, I wish, they didn't tell me I was going to, all these other things. And those parents are never going to ever come back and say, oh, I was wrong. Because that shame of, oh my gosh, I did that to my kid. It's going to be overwhelming. And so I guess what I want to bring up a little bit more is shame. Where does that come from? Why is it so uncomfortable to sit with? And how do we sit with it? And how do we learn how to normalize apologizing or saying, hey, I jumped on something too soon. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. How do we normalize that in our group, in our in our culture, in our
sphere of influence?
There's your word. Yes, sphere of influence. And it's a hhard one. Shame is very hard to sit with.
And for the longest time, I would see this happen always on the left, and not in the left, but like the ultra left.
Yeah.
Because I have friends that are definitely Democrats,
yeah.
and I have passionate debates with them. They are good friends of mine. Yeah. One of these guys is 80 years old, and I've got so much respect for him. And him and I go back and forth all the time on different issues. Yeah. I love this guy. I really do. And we go back and forth all the time on social media and private message, but we have tons of respect for each other and we love each other. We don't ever get into the name calling or the mudslinging or any of that stuff at all. And I know I'm never going to convince him, right? And he's never going to convince me, but we can both share ideas and it's totally fine. And that's what it's more about, is sharing the idea, not necessarily convincing somebody and trying to get them to change their mind. It's just sharing this idea. Have you considered whatever this is?
How do we normalize that?
But what I've seen is a lot of that, like I said, on the ultra left. Well, recently I've seen it now on the right with the current administration.
Yeah. So that's what we were talking in pre-show is now it's this newest event is cause for concern.
It is, because now you've got this ER nurse who was shot and killed by these ICE agents. And when you watch it, not justified. 100%. They shot an unarmed guy. There's 5-6 guys, all agents on one guy. One agent should not be an agent. He's bashing the guy in the face with a pepper spray. The kid's already been maced. This kid has so let me back up. The guy has no criminal history. He's an ER nurse, and he's there videotaping what's happening. I don't know if he's part of the protest, if he was there harassing agents. I have no idea about that. But he is armed. He has a concealed weapons permit. Legal. Everything he's doing is 100% legal. He's not disrupting.
From what we see right now.
Right. He's not disrupting any of their exercises that they're doing. He's not getting in their way. He's just videotaping what's happening. There is a lady who's agitating them who gets pepper sprayed, and he ends up getting pepper sprayed at the same time. The lady falls. He's trying to grab her and move her off of the ice, the physical ice.
The snow.
The snow. And then these agents swarm him and her, and they tackle him to the ground. And when you watch this happen, you watch the ICE agent that was spraying everybody in the face. He's there and he's winding up and he's just smacking this guy. This guy has 4 or 5 other agents piled on top of him. And this one agent is just smashing him in the face with this can of pepper spray. No need for that at all. That guy needs to go on charges. He needs to lose his position and needs to be put up on charges. That was not the first time that guy has operated that way. I guarantee it. smashing this guy in the face. Now, one of the other ICE agents walks up, looks like a supervisor because he just walks up in the fray, recognizes that the guy has a weapon on him. Now, he's totally incapacitated because there's 5 or 6 guys on top of him. The agent pulls the pistol out of the guy's holster. He turns 180 degrees and gets about 1 step away before you hear another agent yell gun, and then a gunshot ring out. They shot the guy. And then 4 or 5 more shots ring out. I've watched this from multiple different angles. There's no justification that I can see for that guy being killed. He was not armed. He was not threatening the police. He never brandished his firearm. He was there doing 2 constitutionally protected activities. Number 1, he's videotaping, which is First Amendment. He's 100% in his rights to do that. Number 2, he's carrying a weapon. Again, our Second Amendment allows him to do that. And he even went a step further to get a concealed weapons permit, which means you have to go through additional training and additional background checks to have that permit to carry a gun. Now, I had assumed that the administration would come out and say, hey, we're looking into this. We want to find out. This didn't look right. And they would have put out a statement like that, but they did not. DOJ, FBI, and the president all came out villainizing this guy. Well, if you show up to a protest with a gun and you're threatening officers, you're going to get shot. He wasn't doing any of that stuff. So that makes somebody like me, who is conservative, who has been on the point of defending these ICE agents and the raids and the administration, saying, hey, this is a good thing to get these people out. It makes people like me really pause and say, wait. I rail on the Democrats for never taking responsibility for their bad behavior. And now I'm watching the Republicans do the exact same thing. It really gave me a moment of pause these last couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, and this is where I have an issue, is anybody really coming out and taking a stance and sinking their feet in the ground before actual evidence, and even a couple days to me isn't enough. The video I saw isn't enough for me to take a stand either way, because of my experience and things coming out later. And that's where me and you might disagree, maybe because you saw different viewpoints than I did. And I don't think the government should have come out and villainized him in that situation at all. And it's actually just going to be very bad for them.
Yeah.
That they did this.
Yeah. At this point, it's bad no matter what.
Yeah.
There is no win. It's a no-win situation for them now.
Yeah.
If they would have come out and said, hey, we're going to look into this.
Yeah.
I've got independent counsel, or we're going to have an investigation, and we're going to let you guys know what happened. That would have been the way to go.
Yeah.
But to automatically jump to defend these ICE agents that, in my opinion, are indefensible, that there are 3 people there that should absolutely be arrested. Number 1, the guy who's bashing him in the head, right? That guy has no business being in law enforcement at all. None. I guarantee that guy's got a record of this kind of behavior. This is not his first rodeo. Okay. Number 2, the guy who pulled the trigger. And number 3, whoever the leadership is that's in charge of that team, because he allowed that level of behavior to happen inside that group. And we know this in the military. Yeah. In the military, when one of our guys, I'm a sergeant, I'm a platoon sergeant, and one of my guys goes out and does something and gets in trouble, abuses somebody, hurts somebody, does something illegal, guess who gets to stand in front of the man? I do, because I allow that level of behavior to happen inside of my unit. That's the level of accountability that we need to see out there with Department of Homeland Security. Is that
with
level
everybody.
Of accountability?
Yeah, all sides, all backgrounds. Let's normalize that.
Because what that does is that sends a signal to these other ICE agents that are turds. And there's some of them that are turds, right?
Yeah.
In every law enforcement, in every
Absolutely,
business,
I've experienced that.
in all of these different walks of life.
Yeah.
You have good people, you have your average people, and then you have these turds. And those turds make everybody else look bad.
Sure.
It just happens.
Yeah.
And so when you have those people, you have to deal with them quickly. And you can't just sweep them under the rug. You can't just make excuses for them, because what that does is it emboldens all the other people who have bad behavior, or the people who are kind of borderline. It moves the bar for them. Oh, that's acceptable. I can do this.
Yeah.
And then we get into this chaos that we're starting to see unfold right now. Because what it does is, like I said, for people like me who very moderate in this conversation, it definitely shifted my view of the government and, okay, at what level do I need to protect myself from this? And then you go back and you look at the history, you look at like Ruby Ridge, you look at Waco, Texas, and you see how the government has come in and did things that are completely illegal, murdered thousands of people, and then nobody got in trouble. None of those agents and the FBI from Ruby Ridge or from Waco, Texas were ever put up on any charges. The administration just swept all of it under the rug.
Right. So I understand the passion and the heart behind protesting and want accountability. I understand that. And it cannot be led with emotions. It has to be led with logic.
So let's talk about that. Let's give people a tool. So if you're experiencing this right now, like I am, like I'm literally experiencing this, where I have this cognitive dissonance that's happening right now, two competing ideas. One, looking at the history of the government and how they abuse people and how there has been resistance that's fought against the government and won. And then this other side of me that is peaceful. I have these two competing ideas in my head. And so how do people who are struggling with this same internal conflict, how do they release that pressure that is in a positive way and not a negative one? Because the negative ones are easy to do. So what are some positive ways that we can release that pressure?
I'm always going to go to self-reflection. Don't be afraid to constantly be reflecting on yourself. Am I right? As a counselor, I'm constantly guiding and leading people to healthier coping mechanisms and healthier ways of communicating. And so I'm constantly in there reflecting, am I doing this in my own life? And just getting used to being okay with reflecting on some of your shortcomings and where you can grow. Like a specific tool for processing emotions when they're heightened would be one that I like to call diffusing of thoughts. And this is acceptance and commitment therapy, where we get a thought in our brain that is a negative one. And what happens is the thought will be a good thought that I would like to diffuse in my own brain would be the world is ending. We're all screwed.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm thinking thoughts like that, extreme thoughts, our subconscious and natural human nature is to buy into that thought right away. So the thought comes in, we're all screwed. The world is ending, right? Our brain is a word machine, like a computer, 60, 70,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of words coming up in our brains, right? We don't have to buy into the thought every single time. But like G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle. So what I'm going to do with that thought is, instead of saying the world is ending, we're all screwed, I'm going to say, I notice I'm having a thought that the world is ending, we're all screwed. Do you see how that puts a little bit of space between you and the thought?
Well, it separates you from the thought.
Yes. So that I can look at the thought. I notice I'm having a thought the world is ending and we're all screwed. So I'm looking at the thought now, not necessarily buying into it right away. And I'm going to say, is this thought helpful or is this thought hurtful?
Yeah, I want to take that one step further. So research that I read, where when we say just this simple little thing, instead of saying, I feel angry about this shooting that happened, which I do, I feel angry about it. But if I change this one simple word, it'll reduce the negative effect by 50%. Okay. Do you want to know what this is?
Yes.
If I say, a part of me feels angry about this shooting, a part of me, I don't feel angry. Because now my whole body.
You're taking the identity.
It becomes my identity.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's a great tool.
So when I read this today, I thought, oh my God, that reduces the negative effect by 50% by just saying a part of me feels this way. Instead of I feel angry. A part of me feels angry about this.
Perfect.
That's it. That piece, a part of me.
A part of me feels angry about this. That's great. And it's kind of a cousin to that diffusion of thoughts, right?
It's not even a cousin, just one little additional word play that goes to exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So your tool is going to is going to help diffuse the initial emotion.
That's right.
Yes, my tool is going to separate it and
Correct.
figure out, okay, where's this thought coming from? Is it helpful? Is it hurtful? And then what do I do with it in a cognitive, responsible way?
Yes. I think if we use both of those together,
Yeah.
that's a game changer right there.
Game changer, yeah.
All right. So go over it one more time.
Diffusion of thoughts,
Yes.
acceptance and commitment therapy. There's an awesome lady I love to refer people to. It's called Therapy in a Nutshell. She's great. I watch her all the time, and I send my clients to her all the time. She's the one who talks about this diffusion of thoughts, right? She even goes deeper and into the acceptance and commitment therapy ways of diffusing of thoughts, like singing the thought separates you from it, or saying it in a funny like accent. Okay, those are other ways proven to separate you from the thought a little bit. Okay, so the idea of the acceptance and commitment therapy diffusion of thoughts is just not buying into it right away and recognizing I notice I'm having a thought that a part of me is angry. I tied those two together. Awesome. That's great.
I think if we practice this on you guys, this will help us a lot. I know I've had to walk through this over the last few days and separate myself from this because I was initially angry, scared, vengeful, thinking like, man, that could be me. I could be the guy walking by videotaping something. I might have a concealed weapons permit everywhere I go. Right. And now you just basically, the administration came out and said open season on anybody carrying a gun.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, here we go. But I had to walk myself back from that. And I've had to deal with that and unpack that over the last few days. And so I think that it's a good topic for us to bring up.
Yeah.
So we've educated you guys about what's been happening in the world, how that's affecting mental health. We empowered you guys with some really simple tools to use the diffusion of thought. And now we're going to encourage you guys not just to use this, but to talk about it with your friends and family. And if you are struggling with this, go see a counselor. Go see a counselor who can help you walk through these things. I also do a free group every single Thursday, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you want the link, it'll be in the show notes. Join the group, join the discussion, and spend 20 minutes building your resiliency. We like to do 3 things here: educate, empower, and encourage you on your mental health journey. So for the Mental Health Janitors, I'm Sergeant Q.
I'm Doc Jess.
And we're out.